guess it's over to you, Anja, to make our lives longer.
Okay,
Please
so
make our lives longer already.
We are doing Long Life Noodles today, which is funny. I was telling my daughter I was making Long Life Noodles because it's traditional for Chinese New Year, and she said, why do you want to live a long time? I don't know.
It's a good question.
It's a good question. I guess we do want to live for as long as we feel good, right? And Tanya was telling me, and maybe you can elaborate a little bit more, that it's not only on Chinese New Year that you have Long Life Noodles traditionally. Where else would you have them?
Your birthday, and so a lot of times if you're eating out for Chinese dinner and you're having like a banquet dinner, it's like 12 courses. And the rice or the noodle usually doesn't come out until the very end when people are pretty full already. But just for the symbolism of celebrating someone's birthday, you would have a little bit of the noodles at the end of the meal.
And I love that you said that it is traditional and that even though you're feeling full, you still have some because it's part of your tradition, it's part of that culture. And I think that's just something I do want to take away from today is, yes, we always say eat only when you're hungry and you don't want to eat any other time, but really food is so much more than just feeling full, and it has so many cultural aspects, and we eat to feel good and because food tastes good. So if one thing you can take from today is do enjoy the cultural foods and enjoy today particularly is about abundance and it is about traditions and feasting. So just even if you're feeling a little full, just wear those stretchy pants so you still don't feel, so you feel good.
My family, my in-laws are Italian. And so culturally, they love to eat a lot. And it's always like, you know, the next course coming out, like you say, course after course coming out. And so I lived that through that the first time and learned my lesson. I mean, I clearly overate the first time. So the next time, I just ate very slowly. I just tried to slow my rate of eating down so much. And then I was able to get through the 12 courses because I just slowed down and I tricked grandma. So I got away with not eating a second. So that was fun.
Okay.
But yeah, it's definitely what we're here for today is just number one, social connection, being together. I mean, this is the first year after a really long time we can all really celebrate again, right?
Absolutely.
So yeah, we want to make the most of it.
Okay.
So yeah, so here you've got your julienne carrots.
Yes, so I've heated up some oil in my wok, and we've got some carrots. Again, I'm not really measuring. We kind of talked about that. We're cooking with your heart. When you're baking, you got to measure because it's a science. I'm trying to figure out which camera to look at. I'm so sorry if I make everyone dizzy with so I've got the julienne carrots, and you want to heat those up first because those are going to take the longest to cook. This recipe traditionally, this is the one we used, but Tanya, you can tell me, it didn't have any vegetables other than the shiitake mushrooms and the green onions. So just to beef up the fiber a little bit and make it go a little bit further, we did add the julienne carrots and the Napa cabbage. I wrote Napa cabbage, but really whatever, green cabbage, purple cabbage, whatever you like. You can also, again, don't have to follow the recipe strictly, just use whatever vegetables you like.
I think when we were talking about the noodles, it is really interesting because when we think about, say, instant noodles, we think about, say, maybe some of the high salt content inside or maybe some of the additives. But what we have noticed is some of the dry noodles, they actually do have quite a bit of sodium added to them as well. And so it was a good opportunity for us when we were preparing for this cooking classes to actually look at the labels behind and to choose one that is a little bit lower in sodium than another, and then looking out for additives as well in the ingredients list.
So I was just going to say a couple of things. Because you're not measuring, you can certainly control the amount of vegetables you use, right?
Yeah.
So if you're worried about the sodium content or the carb content in a noodle-heavy dish, you can just add more of the vegetables to increase the fiber and reduce the sodium that way. It's kind of like diluting things out. I also really have to pay homage to these amazing shiitake mushrooms. They're such a great mushroom. They are so full of flavor. They have umami, lots of umami to them. So there's no real salt in this, but you're getting tons of flavor because of this element of flavor that the mushrooms have. they are low in potassium as well. So you can eat these pretty well every day, right?
Yeah, and then something I forgot to mention is that shiitake mushrooms, the dried version of them, it's a very common gift you give to someone else.
Oh!
Yeah.
So what would you use the dry shiitake mushrooms for in Asian cooking?
So in noodles, you would put them in stews. If certain vegetarian dishes, you would put that together as well. And so a lot of times, the dried shiitake mushrooms actually have a different flavor profile.
Oh, okay.
And then you would soak them, and then you cut off the stem, and then you would actually braise them in sauce.
Oh, wow.
And then you could, so my mother-in-law is very sweet. She'll actually do this for me and then freeze them.
Oh, so it's ready to go.
Yeah, and then she'll give it to me, and then I can use them as needed in soups or
that's
in
brilliant.
Noodles, or like when I'm sauteing noodles.
That's
so it's already
genius.
flavored.
I love that. You could even potentially do that with your ginger and your garlic. You know, if you're already starting to mince things, you
Yeah.
could probably freeze these in little containers,
Yeah.
and so it's grab and go next time you're making the dish.
This was funny that we were really fanning over cabbage.
Oh,
before the
yes.
cooking
I
show.
wanted to hand that over. Yes, we want you to.
We're fangirling.
Yes.
If anybody watched the cooking show last time, I did fangirl over cabbage last time too. So
We're very excited about
that's
cabbage.
probably why I added it to this dish as well. So I love cabbage. I think it's going to be the new kale. It's going to be, I don't like to use superfood, but you know, I've said it once. But I love cabbage. It lasts forever in the fridge. So if you get your grocery shopping done, you do your meal prep, you go at the beginning of the week, it's going to be the one that you can use closer to the end of the week. It stores really well. It is low potassium, again, if you're worried about potassium. Full of fiber, lots of other great nutrition, and you can eat it raw, you can eat it cooked, it's braised, really just so fantastic. So I do love cabbage, and the price point compared to most of those other many other vegetables is also quite good. So
Yeah.
So here's the thing. We talk about fiber constantly as dietitians. We're asking people to eat more fiber. So what's the big deal? What's the big connection between fiber and kidney disease? Like, do we want to touch on that? Any research bits that we want to give the crowd?
I definitely think that most Canadians are not getting enough fiber in the day. So when we're talking about men and women, adults, we're thinking along the guidelines of 25, 30 grams of fiber per day. I think 1 in 4 Canadians,
Wow.
I think,
Yeah.
are meeting that. And so most of us could use a little bit more fiber, whether it's from whole grains or whether it's from vegetables or fruit.
Beans, lentils.
Lentils. So lots of places you can actually get your fiber. And so I think it's really great for digestive health. And so I think it's very beneficial.
What's so important about fiber too and kidney disease that we're learning is that fiber is not just beneficial for digestive health. Absolutely it is, and we want to make sure people have good digestive health, but it's also the gateway to your immune system. So if people have better gut health by the foods that they eat, then they're going to also have better immune function. And so if you have less inflammation, better immune function, that means the health of your kidneys is also better. The health of your circulatory system is better. Your heart health, your brain health, it's all connected. There's an axis between the kidney and the gut, which I think is so cool. And just that food is really medicine, right? It's got this power to be medicine. It's joyful, but it's also, a way that we can help heal ourselves. So I think that's pretty cool.
I think it's so interesting how there's just emerging research on all of this, and that it's just very interesting to see some of that connection in preliminary research as well.
Amazing.
So we're just going to finish this one up. So we did, again, boost up the fiber in here as we talked about how we want to feel full. If you wanted to make this even more of a dish, we're using it today as a side dish with the fish and the shrimp, but you could also add some tofu on the side or some of your favorite meat. So I've got this hot. Everything's sauteed nicely. I'm just going to add the noodles.
I love that sizzle.
I know,
Yes, I know,
that's
right?
So much fun.
So Tanya did all this with chopsticks, but I can barely use them at the best of times. So I got my kitchen tongs over here.
That's my best tool for this kind of cooking. I love that.
And here I've mixed together the vegetarian oyster sauce. I've mixed together the soy sauce, some sesame oil, some water, and a little bit of sugar and water. So the water helps to dilute it, but so that it goes a little bit further. I'm just gonna kind of eyeball it, and then you stir fry it all. Make sure you're not overcooking the noodles when you're doing this at home. So read the package, but because this cooks a little bit in that sauce, you want to only give it about 1 or 2 minutes less in your boiling water. Otherwise, I did taste test it at home with one very thin noodle, and it just turned kind of to mush. So just keep your eye on that. And I think in the recipe as well, it says you can boil the water in your wok. If you don't want to do as many dishes, you can do that. Then strain it just to save the dish. But ease of time, magic of television, we had it on the side. So there we go. And then I will plate it up, but I'll get Dani over here
another
to
beautiful.
start her fish.
Sounds great.